We are live. So excited to welcome Ande Lyons this week. Our episode is Wisdom and Insight, Why Being the Oldest Person in the Room is Your Networking Superpower. And Ande is going to talk to us all about this. Ande at 68 is a 4 times founder, a former global startup mentor, a serial podcaster since 2012, founder of the New England Podcasters Group, and is the host of the popular pro-aging, edutaining, and interview-style podcast Don't Be Caged by Your Age, where Ande shatters age-related expectations, helps folks dissolve internalized ageist beliefs, and provides resources, inspiration, ideas so older adults can thrive after 65. So Ande, it is so great to have you on the show. My first question is the first question we ask every guest, which is, what's one cool networking event you've been to recently?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, Jeff, thank you for having me on Wicked Connected. It's wicked awesome to be here with my favorite Boston people to talk about my favorite topic, networking. Love it, love it. So one of my favorite networking events is called Podfest. It's an indie podcaster conference that happens in January every year. And here's why I love it. Most conferences you go to, they've got the exhibitors that are the focus, or definitely the speakers. At Podfest, they will clearly tell you the culture there is if you're having a phenomenal conversation with someone outside one of the rooms, stay with that conversation. You can get a recording of whatever speaker session you wanted to go to or wherever you were going to go next. That relationship you were building right then and there is the most important thing. And I love that about that event. It's about the connections and collaborations and building relationships. Pure deliciousness.
Oh,
That's a great. I mean, how many times have we all been to conferences or networking events and, oh, I'm so sorry, like we got to run into a session and it breaks off short. So that's phenomenal.
I was going to say that's very different than what I would say a standard networking event or conference suggests you do. And I personally love doing that, and I'm guilty of it myself, but I enjoy when I'm being told that that's the right thing to do.
Right. It's all about the people, right?
Right.
Well, Ande, before we dive into sort of asking you questions about networking and so forth, we always like to ask folks about sort of what they do. And you have so many things in your profile that I could ask you about, but I feel like the thing that's probably most valuable to ask you about is, can you tell us about Don't Be Caged by Your Age and where did that idea
Oh my gosh. Thank you for asking. It's one of my favorite stories. So I'm a 4 times founder, and I was a part of the global startup ecosystem for 8 years. This is a very youth-driven culture, okay? And I was always afraid to come out about my age, even though I knew I could be folks' grandparents in that room, and I would hear a lot of ageist comments all the time, especially explain your business as if you were telling your grandma. So first of all, that's gendered ageism. They would never say grandpa, okay? And so when I turned 66, I used that opportunity to grab myself the sign of our Route 66 here in the US, and I held it up in front of me and took a picture. And honestly, the look on my face is, will you still love me and respect me now that you know I'm this friggin' old? I was so afraid to tell anybody about it, even though we were building tech companies in the 70s and 80s. People were gaming on mainframes using punched cards back in the day. We're very tech savvy, but there's so much ageism in the world, especially for a woman. And so when I did this post on LinkedIn, it went viral, and I heard so many different aspects about the aging, and especially around women aging. I mean, we've been dealing with sexism for decades, and now we're getting hit in the face with ageism. What the heck? And so I knew that was going to be a podcast in my future. And Don't Be Caged by Your Age is a pro-aging podcast. It's an interview style, edutaining style podcast that helps shatter age-related expectations and limitations so folks can thrive after 65. And it's my 6th podcast. I've been podcasting since 2012, live streaming since 2012. And so this has been fascinating. It's been really helpful to me to age out loud and proud and help more people age out loud and proud and get some agency and ownership and like, yeah, I'm the bomb. I'm amazing at this age. And so rather than talking about institutional ageism, which is we got a whole lot of problems, generations of talent are being wasted in the workplace right now because of ageism. I like to provide representation in the podcast. What are these people doing in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond? And the best result are the folks in their 40s and 50s going, oh my gosh, this is wonderful news. Like, I've got something to look forward to instead of dreading. And it's just been one of the best things I've done.
It's amazing. I have to ask you, because as you were talking, I was thinking about a book that somebody recently recommended. Have you ever come across this book called From Strength to Strength? Do you know this book?
From Strength to Strength?
Oh my gosh. Well, so I'm going to put that on. I'm putting it on your I'm putting it on your reading list, because it is all about this idea of how we sort of move from being one sort of intelligence as young people. I think the author calls it fluid intelligence, to as we get older. I think he probably is talking, 50 plus, whatever is, I don't know what he considered older, but as we get older, we move more towards this idea of like insight and wisdom and so forth, which is why that ended up sort of in the title of this episode. But this idea that the intelligence that we bring to the world sort of morphs over time, and we become sort of wiser and so forth.
But that's why the intergenerational relationships are so important within organizations. You got the younger brain who's boom, 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 and the older brain that's going, yes, and. Right? And especially today, during these tumultuous times that are so fraught with uncertainty, oh my gosh, we've been there so many times, and we've gotten to the other side. So we bring that perspective to getting through difficult times.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the number one that's discussed, or at least definitely top, just in a occupation, is having a diverse multitude of perspective folks at a table, right? And that's a multitude of things, but those type of conversations are imperative.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so Ande, tell us what are there special tips or things that you tell people who are networking when they are older?
Right? I mean, you have to understand, it can be really daunting to walk into a room, and especially think about me in the startup ecosystem. Not only did I have shoes older than many of the folks in the room, I know my Bill Blass blazer could have been somebody's grandparent, but I was always told you were like one of the most exciting people in this room. They were not judging me because of all the barnacles and brown spots and wrinkles on my face. And clearly I was an older person. That wasn't even seen. So that was a big aha moment for me, first of all, walking into the room, and also leading a monthly pitch event for startup founders here in Boston for 3 years. But what I love to tell people, of course, is that one of my favorite things to do in the world is to walk into a room full of strangers. Now, you have to understand, very few people feel that way, but I go in because I'm coming from the perspective of curiosity. Oh my gosh, who am I going to meet today? And how am I going to help them? How am I going to connect with them? But most importantly, I've lived long enough to know that when you, as we used to say in the 80s and 90s, suit up and show up, you are going to meet somebody, and it's going to be a game changer for you. And so that networking, being able to come into the room and be curious, and don't lead with what do you do? I love to lead with what makes your heart sing? What's lighting you up right now? And then here's a little body language tip. Nod slowly, like, ooh, like that. That gets them all like, okay, I can tell her more, right? And then I like to also think about connecting. Like when I'm chatting with someone, I like to say, well, who does this person need to talk to? Did I just meet somebody? So I have this ability to connect dots, but it's also because I've trained my brain to do that in networking.
Yeah.
And
it's a great way of going into it, though. I wish more people were like that, being just genuinely curious, wanting to help, wanting to connect. I think many people do, but everyone approaches it differently.
Well, it's be a connector, not a collector, right? And so, you want to see how you can help someone else win. And I say this because we all know the Maya Angelou quote where, people won't remember what you did for them or what you gave to them, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. Yeah. And that's also how I like to go into a networking event is how am I going to touch people's lives?
So Amelia, you look like you want to jump in, but your dog keeps sort of cutting you off.
I know. I'm sorry. The cat just jumped over. His dog got pissed. It's like
that's live. That's live.
What happens.
That's live.
Especially when you have a puppy. Andy, I did have a question. So you were talking about curiosity and meaningful conversations, and just don't just lead with. So what do you do? So somebody who might be older or more tenured who hasn't networked, what advice would you give them? Obviously, lead with curiosity, but if they're more of an introvert, they're like, oh my God, I don't know anyone. What would be your best advice to them besides just go do it?
I know. You have all these incredible lived experiences under your tiara, belt, whatever. And so take joy in that. Feel the confidence of that as you walk into the room. Introverts don't always have to go in and start a conversation. You can come and join a group that's having a conversation. But as you move about the room, look into folks' eyes, because again, you have this authority and authenticity that comes with having made mistakes, learned from them, and figured things out along the way. It's like your experience gives you these special stories and insights that younger professionals haven't yet gained. And if you are older than 50, 55, and you're entering a room, you have been here before. So you know that you have more experience than our millennials and Gen Zs at walking into a room in person because of the internet and how many folks have built relationships online. You have more experience at this.
I feel like, one of the things that I've noticed as I've become more and more of a networker over the last, I don't know, probably 18 months or so, that I've really sort of ramped up my networking is that I do think, to Amelia, your point about you just have to do it, is to some extent, like a lot of my confidence now comes from the fact that I know that I can walk into a room full of strangers and have perfectly good conversations. So when I have a weird conversation, I don't think it's me. Right. And maybe it is, but generally speaking, if you've done it a lot, you've been in a lot of these conversations, you just have to get in there and try some things, and some of them will be terrible, but that's how we learn and grow.
And Amelia too, as you age, this makes you the most valuable person in the room. You have to come from that place in your heart. Just as a younger person, you have to come with a different level of confidence in the room.
And it's so funny because the groups that I network in, so often I'm the youngest person in the room, and I'm constantly feeling like I have to say, like, yes, I deserve to be here. I'm not just a sales rep. I have thoughts, I have opinions, and they're valuable. And so I love that. And, I've talked to a lot of people maybe changing their careers in their mid 40s, and they are like, well, no one wants me because I'm just like, I'm old. And it's so funny when you hear people say that, because it's not true. And I love that you are bringing this level of confidence of, no, like, you just have a different skill set. You have experience. You have time. You've seen things that a 25-year-old, no matter, like, they could have 4 PhDs, and doesn't mean that they're the smartest person in the room in every given topic.
Exactly. And also, innovation doesn't end at a certain age. Ambition doesn't end at a certain age. Passion doesn't end at a certain age. It's there. And so to think that you can't learn new things as you age is a There are just so many constraints. I have a deep appreciation for when people are feeling like, I'm nervous, because I'm clearly the oldest person in the room. That's where you have to flip the script and start going.
Have you experienced any ageism with respect to the podcast?
No. In what way? I mean,
has anybody given you like why would you do a podcast about this or whatever? I mean, it's a brilliant idea. No, that's awesome.
Well, I do reverse ageism actually, because you've got to be 65 plus to be on my show.
Got like 13 years before I'm going to be on your show.
I know, it's like, gee, sorry, you got a few more years. Can't have you on yet. What? I'm 63.
I have a couple more careers.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of the things that happened when I turned 50. I already had two impressive, amazing startups. One heavily backed by VCs, another one heavily backed by angel investors. But when I turned 50, I thought, oh, that's it. I'm done with entrepreneurship. That's a young person's game. Well, 16 years later, I wrote the post, Don't Be Caged by Your Age, talking about, wow, I've had two businesses since then. It's insane to think that age has to stop you. And everybody's going to experience age in a different way. But the most important thing to remember is that we're humans. We need a reason to get out of bed. And it doesn't have to be some high and velocity, passion, and purpose, but you need something. And the World Health Organization has called retirement an epidemic that's costing societies billions of dollars. Because what happens is people plan maybe financially and they do the travel and all of that, but then the next thing they're sitting on the couch binging on TV shows and declining in their health because they're not connected, they're not visible, they're not learning new things. And that's what ends up costing us so much, especially our health and our mental health, which is why getting out and networking. And this is why I launched New England Podcasters Group. I sat there thinking, okay, in early 2024, I said, I want to have more community, and the ways to get community quickly disappear as you age. So in your 20s and early 30s, you might still be hanging out with folks from college or early in your career colleagues. And then after that, if you have kids, you're hanging out with parents and that whole group, and your kids are definitely taking care of community for you. But then what, right? And so also as you age, you get really discerning about where you're going to spend your time because you don't know how much you've got left. And so who do I want to spend time with? So these are all the questions I was asking myself. And I got on Meetup and Eventbrite. I didn't see anything that was super interesting to me. And I have to tell you, I find podcasters phenomenally intriguing, fascinating, and interesting. And so I went to PodFest in 2024 and I said, we need something like this locally in New England, not just Massachusetts, New England, to support each other. And so I said, why not me? And I had a conversation this time last year with a bunch of folks online, about 10 of us talking about, is this something we want to do? Amy Fagan waving to you out there. But and sure enough, there was an interest. I said, okay, well, like any startup, you've got to prove your value proposition. And so I had the first meetup in May every month, second Saturday, 12 noon in Westford at the Community Access TV. And the next thing I knew, I had a sponsor, Mopod sponsored me for food. And it was happening every single month. And new people kept showing up and it started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I went, okay. And it lit me up in ways I'd never been lit up. So these are some of the things we need to to see and figure out and understand about that. That could be photography for someone else. It could be gardening. It could be cooking. It could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say, as someone who has been to the New England Podcast Group meetups, they are excellent. They are super fun. And I absolutely agree with you. What a great group of people. So much passion for podcasting, amazing stories, amazing ideas for podcasts, and this huge range. I'm like, people who are like just starting out to, people who have like, whatever, 100,000 downloads or whatever. I mean, just this amazing group of folks. So I love it, and I'm so glad you put that together.
Me too. And now we have a membership that we started, and we have founding members. It's just there's agency and ownership within the members too. So building community means you got to network, right? Or going to an event like this means you've got to network. And you've probably said it hundreds of times already on your shows, but really your network is your net worth. Your relationships shape your opportunities. And the more you invest in others, the more your network will work for you. And I want everybody to take that in, because as you age, that owning that room, feeling really good about why you're in that room, it's because your network is your net worth. And those opportunities, and that's, of course, what's great about podcasting, opportunities and networking open doors that you could never have thought were even available to you until you went networking.
So now I just feel like I've been begging to ask this question. It's been at the top of my mind. How did you get started networking, and how has that really shaped your career as a founder? And obviously we've just heard about how it shaped your time as a podcaster as well.
Well, I thank you so much for asking that question. I graduated in '89 from the only all-women's MBA program out there, Simmons School of Management. And one thing I learned quickly was that women had a hard time networking. And here's why. They would hand cards or they'd connect people, but they'd really give so much thought on how it reflected on them. And that is just indoctrinated behavior that was built into us. And it's, taking decades and centuries to dissolve. We're getting there. Men would be like, what? He was breathing. So what? I just watched this whole different dynamic of watching women and men networking. And I said, women, we got to lighten up. And so when I helped launch the Simmons School of Management's annual leadership event, which grew to be huge. So we started as a small group, bringing that to life in 1992. It grew over the years. It was also, the component was teaching women how to network, that it was about building relationships, but all relationships weren't going to be great, and that's okay. And the connections were not always going to be a reflection on us, right? Because again, women just, entering the workplace back in those days, it was really tough. And we were always worried, were we going to fit in still and do all the things? And so today, I just think it's much easier for women to enter the room, because we don't have the challenges of being the first woman in the room. So in tech, engineering, finance, legal, all those industries, in the 80s and 90s, women were still 1 out of 10.
Yeah.
Say I'm personally part of a couple of female specific groups, and being a part of any group is a blessing. To your point, your network is your net worth. But some of these all women groups, the conversations that are had, again, the perspective, the experiences from different, years of professionalism, it's incredible, and it's helpful for everyone. I did have just a question on the topic of you saying your network is your net worth. For folks, no matter where you are, whether you're, change of career, you're starting out after college, you're further along into your occupation, and someone is beginning to maybe capitalize more on building their network than prior, I think we talk a lot about how to maybe start, but then to maintain and grow those relationships. So I'm curious, from your perspective, do you have any do you have tidbits or, recommendations on how to keep growing those depth of relationships throughout?
Absolutely. So this is the thing that drives me nuts about LinkedIn. Okay. See, on Twitter, may it rest in peace. On Twitter, you had lists. Okay. And you can do this on Blue Sky too. So you can create a list, podcasters, create a list, the conference I went to last week, whatever you want. And you can put those people into that list. So you can always quickly follow up with them online.
Yeah.
But take photos, do whatever's easiest for you to grab the folks that you want to stay connected with. So business cards are still a really good tool, even though we want to think we're all using all the apps and all the tools. At the end of the day, even if you're using Hova, whatever that WHOVA app at a conference is called, it's not enough. That business card you can write a note on. This is what this person talked about. Also, one of my favorite tips is before you go to an event where there are speakers, connect with the speaker before the event.
Yeah.
And do that by promoting and commenting, reposting. Comment marketing to me is one of the best ways to build relationships and get known with, under somebody's umbrella there. So that when you show up, and also if you can get an attendee list ahead of time, scope it out so that you can go, oh, I definitely want to meet that person or this person or that, so you have that strategy in place. But you're right, Taylor, the follow-up is so important. And everybody's going to be different in how they do that, right? But I suggest if it's somebody you really want to maintain a relationship, just put it somewhere that you are reminded. Touch on LinkedIn. You can do the little bell so you get notifications when they post, so that you can show them some love and stay connected. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think it's interesting too. You talk about following up. I was having this one of the things I teach marketing at UMass Boston, but I actually assigned them to go to a networking event. And one of my students was telling me that he completely, based on some of the conversations we had in class, he completely approached this recruiting event completely differently. Ended up having this amazing conversation with this, person who potentially has like an internship or whatever. And he has this awesome conversation. He literally watched the person not like reject the resume of somebody before him, saying, oh, you can just apply online. And then by the end of his conversation, she's like, can you give me your resume? I mean, he did it. He was awesome. And then I said, so did you follow up? And he said, no. And I was like, what? Like, why would you not follow up? Like, this person wants to talk to you. But I think that's,
it's the shyness. Really, the shy being, I'm afraid to be rejected. I'm afraid they're not going to remember me. I'm, all the wonderful human fears. And that's such a good story, Jeff. And I just want to remind the introverts out there, because clearly I'm an extrovert and my batteries get juiced up by seeing people and talking to people. But the introverts, remember when you go to a networking event, carve out time for the aftercare. Right. Because that might mean, like, first of all, maybe during the event, you can have to run into the bathroom and just go, all right, because it can be so overstimulating. And then when you get home, it's okay. Just like fall apart, do all the things, whatever your introvert nature needs. Hide under the turtleneck. You've seen that, that full body turtleneck thing that people can wear. Do whatever you need to. It is okay. I know people like me can get you go, what? And just take good care of yourself. And then may I please recommend everybody to follow Vanessa Van Edwards on TikTok. It's A. Van Edwards. She is a recovering introvert, an awkward introvert. She has the best tips for networking and just connecting with people, period. From that, that nod I was talking about, to the open palm, like, hi, to all of these other ways to connect with people. I highly recommend her. She's ideal, especially for folks who need to learn these, attributes and techniques and tactics. So you can go in as if it was showtime, whatever you need to do, and then go home and crawl in under the covers.
It's amazing. Well, this half hour has flown by. We could absolutely be asking you questions probably forever. But sadly, we have to wrap up. Andy, what we like to do to start off with is, or to wrap up is, we like to start off with our guests and say, what's one cool networking event you've got coming up?
Why, April 12th at 12 p.m. New England Podcasters Group. It's wicked cool. Awesome. And we have one of our members, Lori Ann, is a phenomenal award-winning speaker and public speaking coach. And she's going to be our featured speaker. She's going to be sharing all the tidbits you need to step up and be in the limelight.
Awesome. Well, that one's definitely on my calendar. So
Oh,
I should what is the before the rest of us go and tell what we're going to be doing, what's the best place for people to reach you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, Ande Lyons, ANDELYONS. I'm there, TikTok, and YouTube, of course. You can hop on my YouTube channel and see everything I'm up to there. And then you can hop on my website to find the links to my phenomenal podcast, Don't Be Caged by Your Age, and all the things we're doing at the New England Podcasters Group.
Awesome. Well, it's like I said, it's been so great. I'll go first and say, or I'll go next and just say, my cool event for this week is I met a bunch of marketers at a Charles River Chamber of Commerce networking event, and somehow we agreed that we were going to try and do like a sort of, I don't know, it's like dinner for 10 kind of dinner every month. So this is going to be our first one. We each are supposed to invite one or two marketers, and so this is our
That's
first
ambitious.
trial run. We'll be doing on I think it's on Wednesday, so that'll be fun. Amelia,
awesome. I can go next. I love the dinner aspect, being able to, again, get folks together and do something outside of the event that you connected at. I think that's a great way to build relationships to another level. I'm actually traveling to Florida this week and seeing some clients I have that are outside of New England. So I work with a large firm that I'm going to being able to see their new office and get some in-person time, get lunch. So it's going to be really nice. So no networking events, but a little bit of traveling for me this week.
And relationship building, which is wonderful.
Exactly. You can do it virtually, but in person is really, I think it puts the cherry on top with relationships. What about you, Amelia?
I have one event tomorrow I'm going to. It's Women in AI meetup. So I don't know, the last few weeks I've had a lot of women-centered events, and I'm really loving it. Just meeting a lot of women in the ecosystem. So that's at Glasswing Ventures in the downtown area. And then third Thursday is normally this week, but because of March Madness, we are not doing our traditional third Thursday event. So Supporting Strategies and a few other companies, we host a monthly networking event. So instead, we are having an event on Wednesday. It's called Secret Garage. So maybe I'm screwing up the secret, but sorry, guys. But we will be inviting founders and investors to an event in Newton, and we'll be getting a little good group going. And so it's just a little bit of a different event than we normally do. So I'm really excited. It'll be my first one with Supporting Strategies, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
I love that. And with all due respect, Jeff, when women get together, the semantics disappear. The things that, what did he say? What did she say? Is he mansplaining? You know, all the things, just they're not there. There's a whole nother level. But anyway.
Well, I will never completely understand, but I appreciate that for all of you. Anyway, Ande, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much. I have no doubt we'll probably have to ask you on again sometime.
Absolutely.
And I sort of jumped the gun before, but we actually had a comment from Amy saying I'm clapping you on. So
one of the things I've done, folks, for my networking event is I hand out clappers, mostly because it also delights me to see everybody go, you know.
Yes.
But anyway. it adds a good vibe, and it adds an experience to a networking event.
Brings up the energy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted to spend time with you, Jeff, and Amelia, and Taylor, and your listeners and viewers.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.